another episode of IROC Business Entrepreneur Series. I am so excited because we're going back into time. I have one of my old high school classmates here with me, Miss Tremaine Wills from Mind Over Money. Yes. Hi, Tremaine. How are you?
Good morning. I am doing very well. I am grateful, excited, just happy, overflowing with gratitude.
Awesome. So yeah, I knew you back in the day, like going back to what, 07, 06, back in those days. And wow, I've been watching you on Facebook and Instagram and all the places. And wow, have you grown over these last, 10, 11 years.
Stop telling the people.
I know, look, we look good, honey. We look good for our age. But yes, you have been doing the do for so long. And I love that you are really pouring into our community. So I definitely was so excited to find out we could work something out to get you on this podcast. But look, I'm not going to shout you out too much. Let me go ahead and let you introduce yourself to the folks. Please tell them all about Miss Tremaine and what it is that you do.
Yeah, so hello, everybody. And first, let me say thank you so much for allowing me to, step into your space and have access to your platform. I do not take that lightly. And so I just appreciate you for allowing me to be here, Corey. But so for those of you who don't know me, which is probably a lot of you listening, my name is Tremaine Wills. I am the owner and founder of Mind Over Money, LLC. We are a registered investment advisor firm where we provide portfolio management services, investment advice, and financial planning to Black women entrepreneurs. And so I'm going to talk into some detail about how we made that shift to really dive into that specific audience. But that is my primary business. I also am the owner of a financial literacy resource hub called My Last Dime. And so if you have seen the Get Your Money Right space, the Facebook group, that is one of my passion projects to really help teach about financial literacy and make the information accessible. So those are the two companies that I own. Mind Over Money LLC, which is the registered investment advisory firm, and then My Last Dime was a separate entity that promotes financial literacy.
Awesome. That it's such a need in our community, I feel, to have that financial literacy. I was recently speaking with my accountant and I was like, I have no clue what I am doing. I said, because, you learn from what your parents tell you and what you're around. And in the communities from where I'm from, there was nobody to give me this information. They could not give it to me because they never knew it themselves. So there was always like, I want you to do better, but they didn't have the information to give me. I always tell people my mom was, first generation buying a home. Before her, my grandmother was working multiple jobs. Before her, they were struggling to make ends meet. And then we hit slavery. so it's not a lot. It's not a lot of information given. Like that first generation was just learning to read, let alone be able to tell us about how to handle our finances and build generational wealth, which is now, millennial sense is like, we got to do more. We can't just work 9 to 5s. We have to leave something besides bills and debt to our children. And so I love that you are coming to this space knowing this, because you have the knowledge of our culture and saying, we don't have to keep doing this. We don't have to keep living in these cycles of debt or that debt mindset. We can be free and grow. So I'm so excited to hear about that. But I do want to know, because I'm like, I don't remember you shouting this information out to the rooftops in high school. So what was the why? What made you get into this field?
Yeah. Okay. So very similar to your story, I was not taught about money growing up. I was taught how to make money, right? Both of my parents have been serial entrepreneurs while holding down a 9 to 5. And so I've always seen them being able to generate income. So I've always known how to make money. Now in high school, I used to braid hair, and that's how I was able to finance all of my purchases, right? And so I knew how to make the money. But as far as like building wealth and what investments were and, the discipline of saving, I ain't had none of that at all. And so I quickly realized that I didn't want to braid hair forever. And I just cracked my fingers, right? And so my fingers popping because it hurt, right? That manual labor. And I was like, well, I can't do this forever. And so that got me thinking, like, how am I going to make money in a way that I don't actually have to do physical, manual labor, things like that. And I got really, really interested in how money worked. So when I chose my major at college, I was like, what's the major that make money? Right? Because I was like, I'm going to school, I'm getting this degree, and neither of my parents have degrees. They are brilliant, but I was the first one. And so me wanting to figure out how to leverage my scholarship the best way, I was like, all right, we're going to flip this scholarship and we're going to make this into like whatever degree is going to turn into the most money. And so I landed in business. And from there, I navigated to personal finance. And so I got licensed about investing straight out of my graduate program. And I was like, yo, they're not teaching this back home. I didn't like the conversations that were happening at my job. I'm like, the folks that look like me don't know this stuff, right? And so I stayed with my employer for 2 years. And it took me 2 years to decide that I needed to quit, right? So it was an excellent learning opportunity, but there was this tug in me that was like, you have to go home, you have to go home, you have to go home and like teach. And so I didn't want to do it, right? But when you're called to do something, you got to move. So I came back home in 2014 and I started Mind Over Money. And I was scared, super scared. And then I learned that talking about money was not a sexy conversation in our community, even though, we're always flashy and, we try to flaunt like we have it. The actual conversations never happen. Folks in our community really don't know what it takes to build wealth. And so I was hosting, free seminars at the community centers and a handful of people would show up. And I'm like, I'm trying to put y'all on game. The session is free. I got food for you here and y'all want to show up. And I was so resentful of our community that I stepped away from that and went into the classroom. And so looking back now, I know that pivot was important because it made me a better educator to teach about the concepts. But I was mad. I was really, really upset at us because I had put my money into renting out these buildings and buying this food and purchasing curriculums. And like, I was mad at us. Like, I'm giving you this information on a platter and y'all can't show up. So after about 4 years in the classroom, I got that tug again. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do it, right? But me having the experiences and the troubles I had with my own personal finances and learning how to overcome those hurdles, I knew it was like, I couldn't keep avoiding it. And so in 2019, I left the classroom completely. I became a full-time entrepreneur, and like Mind Over Money had like this reinvigorated spirit about it. And I got really, really serious about helping our community. And so even though I was upset with us in 2014, I feel like it was really a lot of me not prepared to be as vulnerable to have these conversations. And so, we always know that like the turns and the things happen in business, but you have to be very, very honest with yourself so that you can show up as authentically as possible to the people you're trying to serve. Because otherwise you don't get anything done, right? Everybody can see through the BS, but when you're not ready, it'll show, and all of your insecurities and all of those things will manifest and deter you from pushing into your purpose. So that's how Mind Over Money came to be. I was trying to figure out how to make money for myself, and then it turned into this is bigger than you.
That's awesome. And I love that you didn't forget kind of where you came from, because some people do get successful or they find the hidden secrets. We're going to say hidden secrets that we don't know about. And then we keep them and say, oh my gosh, I know now I'm great. And then you forget about all the people that, need that information. So I'm so happy that you went back and said, hey, let me help you. But a lot of us, especially in our community, find that when we do go back and try to help others, they're a bit resistant, or they just may not know they need your information, right? They don't know they're making money because, like you said, we're taught how to make money. Best believe we're out here grinding, we're finding a way, we're hustling left and right, but learning how to use that money to invest, learning how to use that money to put in savings and different types of savings. We know checking and savings account. If that,
Right.
I was so stunned to find that people are still going to the corner store and cashing checks and don't have bank accounts. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't have a bank account? And that was like crazy to me. But yeah, people don't know. They just know I need to make money to survive. I'm going to make this money, and if I make more money, I can spend more money. But they don't understand how to compound it and how to use their money to make their lives better. So I'm so excited that you're like, I need to attend these sessions. But I'm so excited that you, like I said, you just didn't give up on the community, because yeah, sometimes they do you dirty. They just, especially when you said the food, I know that hurt the most. Like, I done went out here and got the food for you, it's free, and you just go not come. And I even went to a session where people came because they could do, I forgot, they got credit to do something else. I think Dominion, like the electric company, gave them something like a kickback for going. They went and they talked the whole time, so the speaker couldn't even get their stuff out. I was sitting there like, I got my notepad out, I'm trying to get this information, and people didn't care. They were just there to get the kickback. They didn't realize how important that information was and how that information could change their lives so much. So keep grinding, sister, get out here and keep pushing, and eventually the people that need to hear you will hear you. So I do want to ask, is there a specific target audience you have? I know you're trying to reach the community, but who in particular?
Yeah, so and this was something I struggled with as a new entrepreneur. I wanted to help everybody. And when you're trying to speak to everybody, what happens? Nobody. You speak to nobody. And so I was not clear on my messaging, and it was a struggle to attract and retain the type of people that I wanted to help. And so I had to do some searching, right? Figure out who is it that I resonate with the most, who can I add the most value to, and who's going to be serious about taking these steps. And so that's how my audience started to shrink and dwindle down, right? And so initially it was all the skin folk, right? All the Black folks I was trying to help. And then it narrowed down, okay, now I just want to talk to the people who are interested in budgeting and credit and investing. And then it shrunk down even more. And I was like, all right, I'm going to get serious about this investment world, because I have taken like 7 investment tests and passed all of them. And I know my stuff. But because I look 12, there are not very many Black women in this space. It was intimidating for me to say, I'm the investment person. And so I got confident about what I know and how I can teach it, and decided investments are my lane. And so I still will talk about credit and budgets and things like that, but that's very introductory information, and your girl knows a little bit. So I decided I'm gonna stand in my brilliance and work on investments. And so that led me to figuring out, okay, who needs investments and who needs it the most? And it is Black women. We are putting communities on our back, but we are not taking care of ourselves. And so my goal is to help Black women who are full-time employees for somebody else, but are also building their businesses to set themselves up so that they can transition and build the legacy that they want for their finances. So helping them create financial plans that match both their personal and their business goals, setting up retirement programs for them under their business so they don't have to worry about, well, I have this 401k at work. How am I going to be able to do something like this in my business? And walking them through that process so that we can stand in our brilliance. I come from a family that does a lot of community service. And so I've always seen, Black women giving back. And I think that's a lot of the pull that brought me back home, because so many people have poured into me. I can tell you the number of, mentors and things that I have in this community, it was like, I gotta go back. I got to. It's like everybody invested time and energy in me. And so let me run this back, and make sure people get a return on that investment. So I want to make sure I show up and teach and give back to those same Black women who were building things and holding it down for their households so that they can really thrive. I think it's time to make that shift, to go from surviving and knowing how to get the money to thriving, where the money is working for you and you can actually get off your feet and relax.
Doesn't it? It sounds like a fairy tale. Get off my feet and relax. Excuse me? Excuse me? I love it. And I want to go back to the part where you talked about you look 12. I literally, when I do speaking engagements and I do like these types of things, I try to make myself appear older, because people underestimate you, especially like people think, oh, millennials and we're lazy. It's like, no, we're out here just making new ways to do things,
right,
and pushing the envelope. So I get you. People are like, and how old are you? It's like, hold on now. Look, I know.
Old enough, okay?
Yeah, I went and did the research. I know my information.
Right. Don't get mad at me because I drink my water. Listen.
Look, tell them. I'm telling you, because I was sitting here looking. I was like, yeah, you still look younger than me, but I do. I try to look older because I want people to, unfortunately, take me seriously. And it's like, I should be able to have a ponytail in my hair if I feel like it with no makeup and be taken seriously too.
Right.
But it is what it is. But we learn to navigate in the world we have to navigate in. So the biggest part of this podcast is we like to talk about hurdles, and we do it because I think that people are out here thinking, I could never, right? I could never leave my job. I could never build generational wealth. I could never do all these amazing things I want to, because these people are special. They somehow have something I don't have. But the point of this is to come up and say, no, anybody, no matter where you are, where you're starting, where you are now, can, aspire to be anything and have success. So I know you talked to us a little bit about your personal hurdles and your journey in business, but I would like to know, what kind of hurdles do your clients have, especially when it has to do with finance, and maybe give us a few tips on how they overcame that and got to success.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We have all the problems with money, like all of them, right? And I think a big piece of it is there's a lack of trust in our community. Unfortunately, in society as a whole, there is this deep connection with your net worth to your self-worth. And when you don't have money, it makes you not want to talk about it with anybody, because they will see you as lesser than. And so instead of having that feeling of being lesser than, you just don't talk about it at all, where you might actually want some help, but you don't want to lay your cards on the table and be judged. And so from my years of being online and having these spaces, a lot of that has been, the conversation. Oh, it's hard to trust somebody. Like, finance is so personal. It's so personal. And so that trust factor is major, because we need to provide spaces so people can feel safe to address their issues and not feel attacked for mistakes they've made, or for things they don't know about, or even, things they did know about, but still chose whatever because of some circumstance. And so that really has been the biggest thing, is laying that foundation of trust. And so, some ways to overcome that. One is to be honest with yourself, right? You know what you do with your money. And if you can be honest about what you're doing, it is that much easier to find accountability and to find a tribe to change the behaviors that you want to change. And the next piece is to decide, okay, what can you handle and what needs to be turned over to somebody else. We are great in the things that we know about, but the things that we have no clue about, we are terrible. And so, for an example, like to take this out, right? I'm really good at talking about money. I'm great at it, but I am trash with marketing and branding. Okay. For 4 years of my business, my brand colors were like red and black because I like red, but that did not communicate the message that I needed my clients to hear. And so I had to hire somebody else who was a genius in that space to help me. And now you can't tell me nothing about my brand. I love it, right? But I had to trust somebody else and showcase what my weakness was to give them the space to operate in their genius. And many of us need to do that with our finances. Maybe numbers aren't your thing, right? We hear people say all the time, math is not my thing. I heard that so many times when I was teaching math. Math is not my thing. Math is not. And okay, if it's not, connect with somebody who math is their thing, who finance is their thing, and let them help you. Because otherwise, that's going to always be the excuse. And then when you're 65 and you're trying to figure out, why you can't leave your job, well, you've been saying for 45 years that math isn't your thing. So of course you can't fix something you're not willing to address. So those will be the two biggest things for, the trust piece. The next issue I think many of us face from what I've seen in my years of work in this is discipline. We lack it bad, right? Because there's this, and like, so I think social media has just amplified, how we want everything right now. I think that desire was always in many of us, but just seeing other people have it like every 16 seconds or however often you refresh your feed, right? It's just making you like, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this. And there's no delayed gratification for anything. We don't want to work for anything. We want it now. And that's it. I want it now. And so we haven't developed this sense of doing the work, being consistent with doing the work, and applying that to every facet of our lives. And so I know this conversation is about finance and money and some of the hurdles, my clients have faced in that space. But the reality is, if you have poor discipline in one area of your life, chances are there is poor discipline in many other areas of your life, because that's the nature of your energy, right? How you do anything is how you do everything. And so if I am always snoozing my alarm and waking up late, if I say I'm going to go to the gym, but I haven't been in 6 months, if I say I'm going to, stop spending money eating fast food, but I'm ordering DoorDash 3 times a week, right? And then I tell myself I'm going to stick to a budget, but I ignore the Mint email when it tells me I'm over, right? That's how you do everything. And so we have to be, like I mentioned, you got to be real with yourself and identify, do I have a discipline issue? Is it me? Because yes, it's you. It literally is you. And we have to take ownership of that. And I'm telling you, once I made that choice for myself, like I know all of the money stuff, right? And sometimes you know it and you still don't do better. They say, if you know better, you do better. That's not true. Sometimes you will, but if you don't have the discipline to continue to apply what you know, nothing changes. And so we get stuck in this cycle over and over and over again because we don't have the discipline to change. The comfort that we feel in, whatever chaos that we've learned that rhythm where we are very okay with having to eat ramen noodles for 3 days in a row until the next paycheck hit because I know this cycle. But the pressure or the stress to do something different is so great. It's just like, well, why would I do that? I understand this devil right here. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, what happens if I try it and I fail? And it's like, we are afraid. We are very scary, to try different things. And so those would be the two biggest things. It would be trusting people enough to help, and then having the discipline enough to remain and do something different that you should be doing different.
Girl, you spoke to me. I don't know if you remember back in church when the preacher would talk and then you would feel like he's talking to you. You looking around like, who told me my business? That's how I felt. I'm like, oh, somebody done told her my business. I related to that so much on so many levels. I remember when I had to leave like working a regular 9-to-5 job because of my medical illness, and them telling me like go home and just collect disability. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I worth now? And I remember even feeling some type of way to my husband who was out here grinding, taking care of the family, working 2 jobs. And I was sitting at home feeling pretty much worthless. And that, money is only one aspect of who you are, what you bring in financially to the table. And I could not see anything besides the fact that I was not contributing. Thus, my worth was less. And granted, I'm happy that I went and pushed and started making my own business, but I should have never had to feel that way. And it was really just like an insecurity insecurity and a fear within me that I related my self-worth to, like you said, my net worth, which I should never have even had to feel like that. But yeah, girl, I was sitting here thinking, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember that, working and being like, yeah, we get paid Friday. We just got to make this stretch. We got to make this stretch. Or like, okay, if I move this money here, then I can put it back on payday. Oh my gosh. I remember I actually spent all of last year, I called it my year of adulting, because I wanted to not live paycheck to paycheck, and I wanted to have some type of surplus and learn how to save. And granted, I will say, if I would have hired somebody last year, would have done better, yes. But when I paid off my car, I had never paid off a car in my life. I was like, oh, I'm an adult. I called my mom, I called my stepdad. I was telling everybody. I remember I went live on Facebook and was like, guys, I'm hitting the button now. I paid my car off. And people were like, that's crazy. No, it was a miracle, because I was that bad with money. I thought I would never. I was like, oh, eventually they're just going to come repossess this car. And it wasn't that I didn't have the money. I just didn't know how to balance, our finances. And I didn't know how to be more disciplined, like you said, and stop buying wigs and makeup. When I realized how much I was spending on that, I was like, oh my, oh my. And it's like, yes, you are. And that could have been a car payment. And I'm like, okay, let me stop just paying the minimum. Let me go in here and get this interest. Who people be like, how much do you pay on your car in interest? I don't know. Is that that percentage number? I don't know. And it's so crazy, the things we don't know. But you spoke to me. I'm like, if that wasn't me all day, and I agree, hire somebody and hire somebody. You think it's going to hurt you, but you'd be surprised how much more money you have when you hire the right people that can teach you how to do what you need to do. Because now that I have an accountant, I'm like, oh, okay, so I can't just spend all of this. And you have that accountability. So I love it. And I love, because you're going a step further by really teaching the investment piece. And that's something that I need to look more into. I'm just having somebody manage it so I don't act a fool with my money. But also to learn the knowledge, I think, is a great piece that you also have, that I definitely think people should look into. Because yeah, people think when you retire, you're going to be set. No, ma'am, that Social Security will dry up, and you will have other needs outside of that fixed income that you're going to need to have. And it's going to be hard. We all have those grandparents that are like, all they have to live on is this small little bit. And anything outside of that, the family has to pitch in or they go without. And that's what I think people should realize. Like, you don't want to be there. I don't want to be in a situation where I got to say, I can't have this medicine or this procedure because my insurance doesn't cover it and I didn't save and I don't have any money to pull from. So I loved everything you said. So I do want to talk. I want you to flaunt a little bit. I want you to put your peacock feathers out and stretch your stuff, because I know you have been busy. And while you are helping us, people have been noticing you, ma'am. So definitely tell us if you have any features or any awards or anything like that. What have people been saying in the wind about you?
Yeah. So fortunately for me, even though 2020 was a rough year globally, for me, it was like a breakout year. And I'm blessed, incredibly, incredibly humbled and blessed. One of the goals I had for myself was to be noticed nationally. And that happened last year. I was named top 50 under 50 Black financial advisors by the Association of African American Financial Advisors. And so I was like, oh, yes, right? This is what I wanted, to be recognized amongst my peers. And so that really felt good. And so in addition to that, in our hometown, there's a Black Chamber of Commerce called Black Brand. And so Black Brand, I was nominated as Entrepreneur of the Year. And I was like, oh my gosh, like things are happening, right? And so because, when your head is down and you are working to work and not for the accolades, you're just working. And then to be recognized for the work, it's like, oh, wow, somebody sees me. Like somebody sees what I'm doing. And so it was just a really nice feeling. And so I did not win Entrepreneur of the Year, but let me tell you, I met some of the other nominees, and to be on the same platform as the work some of these other people were doing, I was like, this is incredible. So, that was a very awesome experience for me. And so I've been featured in lots of different publications, Yahoo Finance, Go Banking Regs, Funbox. I recently did an interview with Wall Street Journal, and so that'll be published soon. And I really wanted to develop my own voice and start to speak from a different perspective. I think that the investment space is very old white man right now. And it's time for some different perspectives. As the minority population is increasing in our country, it is time for more minorities to speak up and talk about, their experience, because we can relate better, to folks who have had shared experiences. I think too, this elevation and the media exposure is great because it'll show other people who look like me or have similar experiences that I have, that they can do it too. And so, I didn't talk much about being raised in a single parent household, or, only being able to go to college because I had a scholarship, or, being from some of the roughest parts of the city and being able to build this. And I think it's important that narrative is told too, because sometimes the hand you're dealt isn't this pretty, well-polished, thing that you can just put on the shelf. Sometimes you have to jump through extra hoops, and people need to see that it is still possible. Does it require extra work? Sure. Is it fair? Of course not. But can it be done? Definitely. And so me, removing myself from the fears that I have about being in the public eye, a lot of this has been me understanding this is bigger than me. This has to be done so that people who are afraid, or people who feel like they can't do it, they hear a voice that was also afraid, and felt like they couldn't do it, and they get the courage to step into their greatness, because there is somebody waiting for you to do that thing that God placed on your heart, right? We all have an assignment. And if we let fear stop us from completing that assignment, there are so many people that are not going to receive the gift that you have to bring. And so you got to be strong enough and have enough courage to step into and lean into whatever that is. And so I know this is supposed to be about the accolades and tooting my horn, but I believe that it's so much bigger than me. And so I'm grateful for sure. I've worked very hard, but I know this is not all me, right? There's a massive community behind me, rooting me on. I don't have no haters. So, I'm just grateful, to be in this position.
That's amazing. I always like people to have that moment, because entrepreneurs tend to not want to brag on themselves. And I'm like, no, I'm going to ask you the question because I've seen it and I want people to know about it. Yay, yay, yay. I love it. I love it. And you've been giving out gems this whole podcast session, but I want to talk about brand new entrepreneurs, people who are just stepping into the entrepreneur life. Is there a tip that you have for them that you think would really just help them in some way, shape, or form?
Get a plan, right? So, yes. Okay. So when I'm working with women entrepreneurs who are trying to transition into full-time entrepreneurship, I have a strategy that helps them reverse engineer their numbers, right? You need to know how much it costs you to live, especially if you don't have an additional income stream, like there's no partner in your home. You got to know your numbers. At the end of the day, if you don't know your numbers, you don't have a business. So new entrepreneurs, you can have all the passion and drive and ambition in the world. But if you don't understand the numbers and put a plan in place for those numbers, your business is going to flop and you're going to be real passionate and broke. And that's not why you go into business. So I'm begging you, as a new entrepreneur, I know you're excited about the thing that you're building, but take some time and to create the plan. Get your numbers straight so you know what you're doing. You know what targets you need to hit. Those key performance indicators and understanding what it takes to get to where you want to go will help you navigate so much smoother. So new entrepreneurs, know your numbers, know every day what needs to happen, so that you can become a profitable business owner. People will say, it takes businesses, 3 to 5 years to be profitable. It doesn't. If you actually step into this and you know what you're doing. Yeah, if you go in blind and you try to scale too fast and things like that, of course, you won't be profitable for a long time. But that's the old way of doing stuff. You don't gotta be broke. You don't have to. There's so much access to information, and figuring out how to buy yourself time, you can do it. I know you only asked for one, but the other thing is, do not try to do everything yourself, because the time you spend learning to do all of the skills that you're trying to do could have been time spent mastering the thing that you want to be known for, right? And that was a big mistake I made in the beginning. I was trying to learn how to do everything. So I'm in here taking classes on marketing and trying to figure out like mood boards and how to do all kinds of stuff that is not in my lane, building a website, like stuff I just ain't had a business doing. And in the moment I hired somebody else, even though it cost me money, it bought me time. And time is the thing you can't get back. You can make more money all day long. We know how to get it, right? I'm watching a web series called Nightlife, and they're talking about getting the chicken, right? For the folks that's from up north, you know how to get that chicken, right? We know how to get the money, but you cannot get time back. You can't. So save yourself time. If you can afford, not if, when you can afford to hire professionals to do things for you, pay them. You are buying yourself time, and that allows you the opportunity to get great in your zone of genius.
That is spot on. I tell people that all the time. Even when I had a coach, they said you need a coach, you need to make sure your money's right, and you need to make sure your legal is right. And then because I do marketing, I'm like, make sure your marketing is right, because people have really great products and services that no one knows exist because you don't know how to market yourself, or you don't have the time. And people are always like, well, I don't have the money. You'd be surprised, because even for instance, when I went and bought my first coach, I was like, oh my gosh, how much is this going to be? But within the first month, I had made enough to pay for that coach. And
yes,
the same thing goes when you invest in someone to handle your finances. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm spending so much on my business, I have all this overhead. And then they teach you how to write those things off. And you're like, oh, hold on now. Now it's not a big feat to pay them what you need to, because they're bringing in more wealth. And like you said, more time. I do not have the time to play with that calculator. It never matches up for me. My bank accounts, I don't even know. I'm like, I don't know any of that. And so, yes, this year I said, with the financial goals I have in place, I needed somebody there to really guide me to that goal. Last year, I'll tell people, I do not believe in being, like you said, I don't believe in being broke when you start a business. There are ways. And I tell people, you have to decide. There's no, right or wrong necessarily if you decide to, get a loan or do whatever. But I was like, I didn't want to be in debt my first year. I wanted to have a profit. And so when I changed my business over to marketing, I said, I'm going to invest in myself. I found ways to do so. And at the end of the year, we had profit. And I was like, yes, that was the goal. And it would have been more profit, like I said, had I hired someone last year, but I was stubborn and I hired somebody for this year. But that means this year will be even greater. So I encourage you, just like she said, stay in your wheelhouse, keep doing what you need to be doing and to do, living your greatness, but outsource is not a crime. Outsourcing can help you in so many ways. Teraine's up here talking about finances. We're gonna lay in some information at the end so you know how to get in contact with her. If you need marketing, you know to come on home, because we are gonna help you guys get all the pieces together. Eventually, we're gonna have somebody up here talking about legal, but it's a whole thing. But yeah, so that you can get all the pieces together. When you build a strong team, you'd be surprised what you can accomplish. So I do want to take a minute and talk about some of the amazing products and services you offer, because I want people to know what they can get from Ms. Tremaine. So do tell us, what products and services do you have? And if you have anything coming out, let us know.
Yeah, so I used to offer everything, right? And then I learned get good at one thing and you can add on additional income streams later. And so I offer comprehensive financial planning. And so what that looks like, it is me helping my client figure out what specifically needs to happen with their finances so that they can reach whatever goals they want to reach. Primarily, I focus on organizing your right now monthly budget, annual budget, so that it's optimized for you to reach whatever long-term goals you have. There are only two options. You can have an ongoing relationship with me where it's more like a monthly coaching as we are building your plans, or you can get a one-time comprehensive plan completed for you. And so what that looks like is we work together for a short period of time. And then once the plan is completed, I turn everything over to you and you are on your way to do your own. And so it depends on what type of person you are, which would work best. So for people who are more of the DIY, they just need something to follow, they tend to get the one-time plan solutions. For folks who know they need accountability and they want somebody to teach them as they go, those are my ongoing clients. And so I'm a bit more hands-on than many of the traditional advisors who might only meet quarterly. My clients and I, we meet monthly because I know there's extra work to do in our community, right? I really believe in education. And so I do a lot of teaching and explaining and, oh, you don't know how to do that yet? Okay, let me show you. Because I want us to walk away feeling empowered and not sad or judged or, some of the things I talked about earlier, because you don't know. There was always a time when the person teaching you didn't know what they're teaching you. And so we need to remember that as we become experts in our fields, because we don't ever want to make people feel belittled because they don't know something. Because think back to the time when you didn't know. There was a time when I have no idea what nobody's 401k was. And so I need to remember that while I'm providing service. So, yeah, those are the two options. You can get a comprehensive plan and be on your way, or you can get a comprehensive plan and stay with me.
Okay, that works. Some people have like a laundry list. Like I know we have tons of products and services, but when you have a system that works, you don't need a whole bunch of extra. She said, look, you can either come with me now, we can get this done real quick, or we can have a lasting, experience. And I like that because some of us do need that accountability. I'll throw myself in there because, yeah, it's hard. Sometimes you know what to do, but if you don't have to answer to someone else or be accountable to someone else, you let things slide, because we lie to ourselves all the time and say, oh, yeah, I can spend a little bit more this month because next month I'm not going to do a lot. And it's like next month you say the same thing and then you don't reach your target and you wonder why. It's like, nope, if you have to say to someone, hey, I spent this much, then you're more likely not to make excuses for yourself. So I love it. Look, there's nothing wrong with having two, girl. Some people only sell one thing and it's like, this is what you get. You pick it or you don't. Because it's worth it. It's worth it. So I do want to know, before we leave out, where can people find you?
Yes. So I'm at Tremaine Wills everywhere, right? Yeah. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. TikTok is my new friend. But that's my handle. Even though I have business accounts, I'm very, very personal and relatable person. So if you're trying to find me, reaching out to my personal handle at Tremaine Wills is the best way. My companies are at Mind Over Money LLC, and then at My Last Dime on the other platforms. But if you want to talk to me directly, message me directly, because you might get a messenger bot or something like that going to my social media. That's not my personal.
Okay, I like it. I've been seeing you on TikTok. I'm on TikTok, but not on TikTok. So
I wasn't on there at first, but I had a
dancing.
And they were like, hey, you got the energy, go on there. And it's crazy that I have the energy because I consider myself more introverted. I like being alone, but I would put on the show when the camera's on for the sake of entertaining, to teach. So that's my platform, to make finance a little fun. So we can learn, because we want to be entertained, but I'm like, well, I'm going to entertain you, but you're going to learn this stuff.
Nothing wrong with that. If we had more teachers like that, boy, would we learn. I learned a lot on TikTok because people put it to songs and little things. And I'm like, okay, I get it. It's a learning community, believe it or not. But I just want to thank you. You have given out so many gems this session. Just talking to us. I was actually thinking in my head, like, where else can I get her? What else can I put her on? Because people need the information that you have to give. Definitely, guys, I'm going to put her links down below. If you're watching us on YouTube, you'll be able to see them in the description, so you can click on our links and connect with her and find out more and see if you guys would be a great partnership. Also, for those of you who are listening on a podcasting streaming platform, definitely check the bio and I'll be happy to throw her information in there as well. But thank you so much for being up here. I have some notes, so I will be probably reaching out soon because I'm like, yeah, I have some goals for myself. I need to get my credit straight. But yeah, so I really want to talk to you probably more about that. But thank you. This has been an amazing,
Sure.
engaging, informative session. So thank you for that. And guys, just remember, connect with us if you have questions, comments, concerns. We want to hear it. And you guys have a wonderful day. Remember, I rock, you rock, we all rock, and I will see you all next time.